The Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius was a man who held the most powerful office in the world, and every day he had to deal with betrayers, manipulators, and individuals who seemed intent on disrupting his peace. Yet his personal journal, Meditations, shows a man who remained fundamentally calm. How? He didn't avoid toxic people, he anticipated them. This is where our modern approach goes wrong. We operate on a false premise: the expectation that everyone we meet will be reasonable, kind, and aligned with our values. When they aren't, we are shocked, offended, and reactive. We feel personally attacked, as if the universe has singled us out for a unique form of suffering. This feeling of shock is, in fact, the root of our turmoil. As the Stoics taught, we must accept that difficult people are not an exception to the rule, they are a feature of the human condition. Consider the simple yet profound reflection of Marcus Aurelius himself, who wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and unsociable." He wasn't indulging in cynicism, he was practicing premeditation of evils. He wasn't saying everyone would be this way, but by mentally preparing for the worst behaviors humanity had to offer, he immunized himself against the emotional sting when they inevitably appeared. This is the first and most crucial layer of defense for an iron mind. The event itself does not cause the upset. The clash between the event and your unrealistic expectation does. Remove the expectation of perfection, and you remove the shock that leads to anger and anxiety. I learned this the hard way in the volatile tech industry. For years, I viewed a competitor, a man named Victor, not just as a business rival, but as a villain. He was ruthless, often undercutting deals with questionable ethics. Every time he made a move, my blood pressure spiked. I would lose sleep drafting counter-strategies fueled by pure resentment. This reactive loop was toxic, and it cost me my health and my focus. It was a severe burnout that forced me to confront my chaotic inner world. The breakthrough came when I realized Victor wasn't my enemy, my unwillingness to accept reality was. I had expected the business world to be a gentleman's club of fair play. Seneca would have laughed at my naivete. He understood that true freedom comes not from controlling the external world, but from accepting it and commanding your internal response. A practical habit. Start your day by defining your daily mental expectation. Before your feet hit the floor, name one person or situation that you anticipate will be difficult. Then, state a simple phrase. This is a natural consequence of the world. It is a challenge to my character, not a curse on my life. This small mental exercise transforms a source of stress into an opportunity for practice. Reflective question. Are you allowing your peace to be dictated by the unpredictable actions of others, or are you claiming the fundamental Stoic right to anticipate and accept the world as it is, not as you wish it were? The deepest wellspring of personal anxiety is the confusion between what is mine to control and what is not. In the context of a toxic relationship, whether it's a critical parent, a passive-aggressive coworker, or an overly demanding former friend, we often pour our energy into the wrong column. We try to control their perception of us, their mood, their hurtful words, or their ultimate decision. These are all external, and therefore entirely out of bounds for our direct will. The most fundamental teaching from Epictetus, the former slave who became a great Stoic teacher, is the dichotomy of control. This is your architectural blueprint for an iron mind. What you control. Your judgment, your response, your beliefs, your efforts, your values, and your consent to impressions. What you don't control. Other people's opinions, other people's actions, the outcome of any external event, your reputation, your body, and your circumstances. When a toxic person hurls an insult, our immediate, untrained reaction is to defend the thing we can't control, their opinion. We argue, we plead, we try to prove them wrong. This is a waste of vital internal resources. The moment you argue to change an irrational person's mind, you have handed them the keys to your peace of mind. What you can control is your judgment of the event. You can choose to judge the insult as a mere sound wave, a projection of their own internal chaos, or a statement that has nothing to do with your true value. The insult lands in your mind, but you get to decide if it is cleared for entry into your inner citadel, your most protected mental space. I remember dealing with a particularly toxic business partner early in my career. Let's call him Charles. Charles had a habit of taking credit for joint successes and throwing me under the bus for any failure. I spent years trying to control Charles's narrative, correcting the record for clients and seeking validation from our peers. This was an utterly exhausting and unwinnable war. The shift occurred when I applied this technique. I stopped trying to control his actions and started controlling my effort and my character. I resolved to do my work with complete integrity and excellence, not for Charles's approval, but for my own standard. When he took credit, I simply focused on the next task, treating his claim as an external event, like a change in the weather, that I noted but did not allow to dictate my mood or my next step. The result was not that Charles changed, but that his actions ceased to have the power to define me or disrupt me. That is the only victory that truly matters. A practical habit. When confronted with a toxic situation, pause and draw a mental line down the center of the event. On the left, list what is theirs. On the right, list what is yours. Commit your energy only to the right column. Reflective question. Which external outcome are you currently fighting tooth and nail to control? And what profound internal decision are you neglecting as a result of that fruitless fight? The toxic person feeds on a reaction. They are looking for a spark of anger, a flood of tears, a panicked defense, or a display of fear. Your emotional energy is their oxygen. They thrive on the drama they create, and they use your predictable reaction as proof of their power over you. To cut off this power supply, we must employ strategic indifference. This is not simple apathy or coldness. It is an intentional, rational withdrawal of your emotional investment in the outcome of their behavior. It is the power of not reacting. Seneca wrote extensively on the concept of not being a slave to fortune. When you react impulsively to provocation, you are allowing the other person to be your master. You are granting them the authority to decide how you will feel, what you will think, and where your focus will be. Strategic indifference reclaims that authority. When provoked, the untrained mind follows a predictable path. Trigger, right arrow immediate emotional outburst, right arrow regret. The trained mind, the iron mind, must learn to introduce a gap between the trigger and the response. This gap is where your freedom resides. Epictetus advised, when you are struck by the appearance of a major challenge, remember that this is the moment when the mind must be a fortress. The way to maintain indifference when provoked is not to suppress the feeling, but to reframe the meaning. When someone tries to provoke you, view their attempt not as a personal slight, but as a demonstration of their own lack of inner discipline. See them with a quiet, rational pity as a person who cannot command their own emotions. Their outburst is a wound they carry, and they are trying to share the pain. By refusing to absorb it, you are not being rude, you are being mentally hygienic. I recall a turning point in a complex family dynamic. For years, one family member would use dramatic pronouncements and emotional blackmail to control holiday plans and major decisions. I would spend days leading up to the events rehearsing my defense and preparing for a fight. When I applied strategic indifference, I changed the entire equation. When a dramatic text arrived demanding a change of plans, I simply read it, noted the content, and waited 24 hours before responding with a calm, one-sentence reply that simply affirmed my existing, well-thought-out plan. No defense, no explanation, no emotion. The person escalated for a short time, then dropped it. The drama cannot exist in a vacuum. By refusing to be the supporting actor in their play, you collapse the stage. They may continue to perform, but they will be performing to an empty seat. A practical habit. The next time you are provoked, do not speak immediately. Take a deliberate, slow breath and engage the mental frame of observer, not participant. Instead of feeling the anger, calmly describe the situation to yourself in the third person. A person is currently raising their voice because they are upset about X. I observe this. I do not need to share this agitation. This creates the necessary emotional distance for indifference to take root. Reflective question. How much of your current emotional turmoil is simply the energy you are expending to keep someone else? Is drama alive? And what would happen if you simply walked away from the stage? The Stoic approach to boundaries is not about building walls of anger, but about erecting fences of clear, rational fact. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they associate them with conflict, confrontation, and the painful emotion of a potential argument. But a true, Stoic-informed boundary is a statement of personal policy, delivered without the corrupting element of emotion. Toxic people are masters at crossing indistinct lines. They operate in the gray areas of your tolerance. They know that if they can make you feel guilty, angry, or obligated, they can control your behavior. The only defense is clarity and dispassion. Setting a boundary without emotion means stating your policy clearly, once, and then using your actions to enforce it, not your words to defend it. For example, an emotional boundary sounds like, "I am so sick of you calling me so late you have no respect for my time. You always do this." This is a reactive statement, full of judgment and anger. It invites an argument about whether or not they have respect for your time. The conversation becomes a chaotic, emotional debate. A Stoic boundary sounds like, "I do not answer calls after 8 p.m. If you call after that time, I will not pick up. If it is an emergency, please text me first." This is a declaration of fact. It states the policy, and it gives the consequence. When they inevitably test the boundary by calling at 8:15 p.m., you do not answer. You do not text to explain why. You let the natural consequence of your policy, their call going unanswered, enforce the boundary. The enforcement is in your controlled action, not a heated, uncontrolled exchange of words. This technique ties directly back to the dichotomy of control. You control your policy, your phone, and your decision to engage. You do not control their reaction to your policy. The moment you start arguing about your boundary, you are back trying to control the external, and you have lost the plot. The greatest challenge in this is the decision of when to engage versus disengage completely. Epictetus gives us the ultimate yardstick. Is this relationship or interaction conducive to your progress toward virtue, toward becoming a more rational, just, and disciplined person? If an interaction consistently pulls you down into emotional chaos, provokes your anger, or forces you to compromise your integrity, the Stoic imperative is to disengage. Complete disengagement is not a failure, it is a strategic choice for self-preservation. You are wisely retreating from a battle you cannot win without losing yourself. A practical habit. Draft 3 simple, non-negotiable policies of engagement for the most draining people in your life. Write them down. Example: I will only discuss financial matters with person X in a public place with a 30-minute time limit, and the moment the conversation becomes circular or hostile, I will calmly state, "This conversation has concluded," and leave. Reflective question. Are your current boundaries flimsy requests you constantly have to defend, or are they unmoving, logical policies that enforce themselves through your consistent, calm action? The final and most profound defense against a toxic world is the construction of your inner citadel. This concept, popularized by Marcus Aurelius, is the mental fortress that no external force, no insult, no betrayal, no market crash, no aggressive person can breach. It is your mental space, the small private room in your mind where you are the sole and undisputed authority. Toxic people, through their chaos, are always attempting to trespass onto this inner ground. They want to set up shop there, filling your thoughts with their negativity, doubts, and emotional wreckage. Your daily practice, your commitment to Stoicism, is the act of strengthening the walls and ensuring your gates remain closed to uninvited, destructive impressions. How do you build and maintain this inner citadel? Through daily practices that strengthen your mental immunity. The art of pre-mortem. Before a difficult meeting, a family gathering, or a major professional event, you don't just plan for success, you plan for the worst possible outcome: the insult, the betrayal, the rejection. You think it through, not to wallow in fear, but to mentally process the sting before it happens. This exercise ensures that when the blow lands, it is a rehearsed event, and you meet it not with shock, but with calm recognition. The judgment filter. Seneca taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. Toxic people offer you a narrative. Your job is to filter that narrative through the lens of pure reason. You ask, is this judgment true? Is it in my control? Does accepting it help me become a more virtuous person? If the answer is no, you treat the impression like a spam email. It gets immediately deleted, unopened, without an emotional response. The practice of self-sufficiency. This is the ultimate defense. The person who needs the least from others is the most protected from their malice. When you are emotionally self-sufficient, when your sense of self-worth is rooted entirely in your own disciplined effort and commitment to virtue, not in another person's approval, praise, or validation, you become immune to their manipulation. The toxic person's greatest weapon, withdrawal of approval, becomes a paper knife. In my own life, I realized that my chronic anxiety was a breach in my citadel. It was the external world, the unpredictable nature of the market, the harsh words of a rival, being allowed to roam freely inside my mind. My daily practice of reading the Stoic masters, journaling my errors and judgment, and practicing voluntary discomfort became the mortar and stone of my new fortress. It's a continuous project. The moment you stop building, the elements begin to erode the structure. A practical habit. Commit to 10 minutes of journaling every evening, focusing only on the events of the day where you let an external force breach your peace. Do not simply record the event, record your judgment of the event. Write down the moment you gave away your control, and write the rational Stoic principle you will apply tomorrow to protect that space. Reflective question. When you look inward, is your mind a chaotic, open marketplace where every external drama is allowed to trade? Or is it a disciplined, fortified citadel whose gates are only opened by your rational consent? The principles of the iron mind only matter when they are forged in the fire of real-world application. Here are 3 common scenarios and the precise Stoic response. The situation. You gently confront a family member about a minor boundary violation, and they immediately flip the script, claiming you are cold, uncaring, and that you are the real source of the problem. They use guilt to manipulate you. The untrained reaction. You feel a rush of guilt and immediately start defending yourself, apologizing, or trying to prove your good intentions. You engage in a futile debate about your character. The Stoic response. Apply the dichotomy of control. Their character judgment is external, it is not yours to control. Your response should be a calm, brief statement of policy. I understand that you feel hurt, and that is your feeling. However, my decision on this boundary stands, as it is necessary for my peace, and I will not be debating it further. I wish you well. Then you disengage. You do not defend your character. You let your actions and integrity be the only defense you need. The situation. A colleague publicly praises you for a successful project, but then immediately undercuts it with a comment like, "Of course, Cassian had to stay until midnight to get it done, but that's just how he works." The intention is to praise with the mouth while poisoning with the tail. The untrained reaction. You feel the insult, and with a tight smile try to correct them, saying, "No, it wasn't midnight. I was home by 7. You engage in the petty battle. The Stoic response. Employ strategic indifference and the judgment filter. You recognize the passive aggression as a demonstration of their own insecurity, not a statement of fact about you. You simply smile, acknowledge the praise, and ignore the barb entirely. Thank you. I'm glad the project was a success. By showing no emotional recognition of the slight, you deny them the energy they seek. You let the poison fall to the floor without drinking it. The situation. Your manager or partner constantly criticizes your efforts, focusing on minor flaws and never offering praise or constructive solutions, leaving you feeling demoralized and inadequate. The untrained reaction. You become paralyzed by the fear of criticism, leading to procrastination or collapse in your confidence. You start doing things only to avoid their next critique. The Stoic response. Engage the inner citadel defense and the principle of virtue as the only good. You separate the useful data from the personal attack. You listen only for the actionable information, if any exists. The rest, the judgment, the tone, the destructive nature of the critique, you view as an external, irrelevant noise. You remind yourself, my worth is not determined by this person's approval or disapproval. My sole duty is to exert my best effort with integrity. You commit to the effort and detach from the outcome of their judgment. The great Stoics understood that the real battle is never against the external person, it is against your own untrained mind that wants to react, get even, and demand fairness from an indifferent world. The ancient way to handle toxic people is to simply stop fighting them and start commanding yourself. This philosophy works because it is a system, an operating manual for the human mind, and not a collection of motivational phrases. It provides a complete, rational framework that allows you to shift from being an emotional reactor to a deliberate creator of your internal experience. The core reason the Stoic method is unbreakable lies in its radical redefinition of damage. When a toxic person acts, the untrained mind believes the damage is external. The Stoic mind understands that the only true, lasting damage is internal, the damage done to your rationality and character. If someone provokes you to anger, they have not hurt you. They have merely provided the external trigger for you to choose the irrationality of anger. The moment you lose your temper, you have lost the only thing of value that is truly yours, your self-command. As Epictetus asks, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind has provided assent to the provocation. The toxic person merely pushes the button, you are the one who wired the button to the explosive. This shift in focus, from what is done to you to what is done by you, is the essence of forging an iron mind. The iron mind is not a mind that never feels, it is a mind that chooses its feelings through rational judgment. This journey is not about becoming a colder person, but a freer one. Every time you successfully apply the dichotomy of control, every time you practice strategic indifference, you are not just surviving a difficult interaction, you are strengthening your character. You are practicing the virtues of justice, courage, and temperance. The toxic person is not a misfortune, they are a mentor of an unintentional kind. They are the necessary resistance that allows you to train your mental muscle. They are the daily pop quiz on your commitment to your own philosophy. You should not seek them out, but when they appear, view them as an opportunity sent by the universe to test the strength of your citadel. Pass the test, and you have grown. Fail the test, and you know exactly where your defenses still need work. This is the ultimate, non-negotiable personal responsibility. You are not responsible for the madness of others, but you are entirely responsible for the peace within your own walls. Claim that responsibility. Reflective question. Are you currently viewing the toxic people in your life as obstacles to your happiness, or as the essential friction required to forge your own unbreakable character? We have covered the architecture of an iron mind. The Stoic expectation to remove shock, the dichotomy of control to define your battlefield, strategic indifference to deny your adversaries their oxygen, and boundary setting without emotion to protect your physical and mental space. The work is not complete until it is a constant, daily practice. This is the final, profound choice you must make. Will you continue to be a slave to the whims, moods, and chaotic behavior of others, allowing their external actions to define your internal state? Or will you claim your birthright as a rational human being, your capacity for reason and choice, and become the master of your own peace, forging an inner world so secure that no external attack can breach it? The choice belongs only to you. The world outside will always be chaotic. Toxic people will always exist. Your peace is not a gift they grant you. It is a fortress you must build and defend for yourself. Begin the work today.